Hello. So if you're on a different link and you found me on this link and you said, Christy, you had another link set up and you're on this one, you know what? Mercury goes retrograde this week and the YouTube Creator Studio is something new for me. So I'm doing something new today. I don't have a ring light. I have literally just me, myself, my cards, some notes that I made this morning. This is also audio for Trust Your Glitter podcast. So if you do listen to the audio for Trust Your Glitter this week, you do get some extra audio of me just yelling at a computer. But really, it's the same audio. So I'm just going to open up. Today's live stream is all about, this we've got a lot of things going on in astrology. We've got the total solar eclipse in Aries, and last week's audio podcast was a chart breakdown of the total solar eclipse in the sign of Aries. So that is more of a, if you want to kind of go into the digging into the chart itself, I will put links in the show notes after this live stream. The other thing is I want to talk about Taurus season because we're entering Taurus season this week as well. So there's a lot of significance going on with that. And then we are in currently a Mercury shadow for Mercury going retrograde. But when Mercury's in shadow, I mean, come on, y'all. Like, it's things like I share a link to my YouTube and then the link doesn't work. And then I restart our live stream. But the link that I made was all nice and pretty and set up. And thank God I saved the show notes so I don't have to redo them because I was like, I guarantee those show notes are going to go somewhere else. And that's the kind of things that Mercury retrograde does to us. So I have my Crystal Unicorn Tarot cards and I'm just shuffling them for just to open up the energy because when I woke up this morning, I was like, something made me pick up my pen, go to my notebook, and I hit my notebook hard. I hit my notebook so hard, and I was like in flow, and I was like, this is the message of this solar eclipse, and it's for everybody. But it's such a big message that I want to kind of also kind of open up with just some like tarot cards to really, really get the energy and flow. If you're feeling the vibes of this eclipse, you're supposed to. And last night I saw that there were like 4 mass shootings all going on simultaneously. And I was like, this is that eclipse. This is, the eclipse of Aries, the god of war, Mars. So that's other things that are going on too. And how do we stay present in something like these situations where it's just continuously testing our center and our ground? And in a sign like Aries, which is fire, which is Mars, it is kind of really asking us a lot of big questions. So let me just do some opening of just like past, present, future, and then the bottom cards. The bottom of the deck, I got the King of Cups. So when I look at the bottom of the deck, it's kind of bringing together the energy, what helps fuse the energy. And when I look at the card, I think, okay, this is King of Cups. So this is authoritative water. Then I look out at the planets and I'm like, well, what planets are in water signs? So we have Mars in the sign of Cancer. We have Saturn in the sign of Pisces, and we have the South Node still in the sign of Scorpio. To me, I do feel this is more Saturnic today, although I felt this is Mars as well. But I do think that with everything going on, we do have this long-term transit of Mars or of Saturn going through the sign of Pisces. So this is something where this is about our inner authority when it comes to creativity and finding authority in our own creativity. In the past position, I have the Page of Pentacles. And if you come across this reading at any time, just know it's just also the past, present, future does not have to be for, April 16th through the 23rd, which is what this live stream is mainly for. But just know that it is kind of here for you. So the past position is the Page of Pentacles. The present position is the Ten of Pentacles. And the future, interesting enough, is the King of Swords. Now, this card has been coming out for me in all of my readings. And for me, I feel like this is about discernment. I always see King and Queen of Swords as cards of discernment. The present card is about family and traditions and values. And the past card is very interesting because it is about reassessing those values. So in a lot of ways, if we're going to look at these eclipse cycles, these are cycles that began in 2022, and they're going to continue on through the rest of this year. The thing about that is, if you're reassessing your values, this is a very good eclipse for you. And I just want to pull some more cards. So let me kind of pull some more cards for that. And Aries is fire. So we have this eclipse in fire. And the interesting part about that is, this eclipse is in a fire sign. And timing wise, let me just get out my notes. I did and people hear gray ASMR, but I did write specific notes because I want to get the dates and times ready, which are also linked in the show notes, which were pre-linked on the live stream, but I digress. Mercury is going through my 4th house. So, all right. We have on the 20th of April, the new moon eclipse at 29:50. So if we think of 10 minutes, 50 into 59 would lead us into Taurus. 29:50 at 12:12 a.m. and that's Eastern Standard Time. So 29:50 degrees Aries, we're right at the end of the sign of Aries. That is the anaretic degree, the final degree of Aries. It is the energy of, if you think about the most mature energy of a sign, 29 degrees is the most mature energy of a sign. And in Aries, the critical degrees for cardinal signs, which are Aries, Libra, Capricorn, Cancer, is 0 degrees. So that's the energy of, say, you think about birth of a sign or the world axis point. Those are very, very potent degrees. And we're going to talk about that in a second as well, because this is a very strong patterning. And one of the things I'll keep continuing to say is that 2023 is a year of extreme synchronicity. And this is an example. So on the 20th at 12:12 a.m., we have this total solar eclipse in the sign of Aries at 29:50. Then on the same day, the 20th, the sun enters Taurus. Now this is at 4:13 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is very important to note because we enter Taurus season on the same exact day that we have gone through this eclipse. So it's literally, I see it as the changing of the guard. So we go from the season of Mars to the season of Venus within the same day. And this critical degree is giving us a message, giving us a very big message, and giving us a message that I think that this 10 of Pentacles card is trying to reiterate between, I've been talking about twin flame energy from the internal twin flame. This is literally the divine masculine Mars and its most mature energy, bringing boons, granting's the wrong word for this, but bringing sacred knowledge, sacred wisdom, passing of the torches, the rite of passage in many ways. And apologies for any extraneous noise. I'm still on the lengths of my comedy journey where I'm still not fully in my home. So I can't control any noise right now, and that's driving me nuts. But so we go from sun in Aries to sun in Taurus, 4:13 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 20th. And then this gets into, we're already Mercury shadow. So Mercury shadow, a Mercury retrograde is a span of a transit, right? So for Mercury retrograde, and I'll have to be using notes today because usually I flip screens, but I don't know if I can do that on here. So the 7th of April, Mercury hit 5 degrees Taurus. Now, 5 degrees Taurus is the point in which Mercury retrogrades back to. And Mercury retrograde, at this point, I think there's enough articles about Mercury retrograde, but Mercury in the sky looks like it's moving backwards based on the rotation and angle to planet Earth. And really, what that does with the energy is it kind of slows us down, kind of fucks with our communication, kind of fucks with our, cars, electronics. There's kind of this going back. And Mercury retrograde is about voice and communication. In this particular case, it's in the sign of Taurus. Taurus ruled by the sacred cow, the sacred bull, the sacred, sacred agriculture. Venus is the sign or is the planet that is the home planet for Taurus. So very Venusian aspects in relation to communication. So I'm going to continue to kind of talk about farming and agriculture and the importance of agribusiness. Taurus is also about luxury and finances and financial markets. So, we've had Uranus in Taurus since 2018. And as we've seen, Bitcoin and other electronic versions of currency have become an extreme part of the market as well. This is also, sacral chakra work, throat chakra work. There's this idea of physical to tangible reality as well. There's this interplay. So if you want to go back to any of my podcasts, I did speak about the Saturn Uranus squares of 2021 because there's this Aquarian and so there's this Aquarian conceptual reality that comes to looking at Uranus and Taurus, but then there's this tangible reality. And we had this kind of interplay when Saturn was moving through the sign of Aquarius, now in the sign of Pisces. And this sort of birthing system that came through technology and the technological era, as there was sort of the shift between Saturn squaring Uranus and they were interplaying each other. So there's a lot of lessons together. And through the portals of eclipses, which is what eclipses are, they're whether you want to consider them time portals or these portals of time where we are given, I know that sounded redundant, but we're given this ask to shift, and we get this about 4 times a year. Now with Mercury retrograde, we generally get this 3 times a year. Certain astrologers, if you say, sometimes you'll get a Mercury retrograde that spans 1 year into the next, or you'll get a Mercury retrograde that ends out a year. So you'll get kind of a bookend where it seems like there's 4 in 1 year. But generally, there's about 3 Mercury retrogrades a year. Generally, there's about 4 eclipses a year. And eclipses are based on the position of the north and south node. And this is for everybody. So we're all experiencing the eclipse this week. And with Mercury retrograde, Mercury goes retrograde the day after this total solar eclipse. And that is on the 21st at 15 degrees of Taurus. Now, the significance of this degree is Taurus is a fixed sign. So Aries is a cardinal sign, and Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So whenever we go through the spring equinox, that is the astrological new year, because this is the first sign of the zodiac, 0 degrees spring equinox. We had a new moon with that equinox. So we've had 2 new moons in the same sign this Aries season. So we went from a very, very, very early degree of Aries, and now we're at a 29 degree total solar eclipse. And then within the day, we change astrological seasons, And then the day after, we head into a station Mercury retrograde. 15 degrees of Taurus is also a critical degree. So for 15 degrees of fixed signs, this is a really important degree. I was reading online, and I know things have changed over the years, but for me, I was taught it was a critical degree, and I can't cite the astrologer. And if this is your article, but then as I read out, I started seeing this as a description of 15 degrees fixed signs, the gates of the avatars. Now, I don't know if that's because it's pop culture now, because I've always learned that, the critical degrees are 0 degrees for cardinal signs, 15 degrees for fixed signs, which are Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, Leo, and then 29 degrees for mutable signs, which is Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces, Virgo. So it's just very interesting. And cardinal signs, Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. So it's very interesting to me that I'm seeing it kind of popularized as the fixed signs point as the gates of Avatar, because I've never heard of that before, but I want to kind of shout it out because I don't know if this is something new in astrology. I don't know if this is something that I've missed. I haven't really been to a lot of astrological conferences in the last 2 years. So for me, this is something that, if the vernacular is changing in the astrology community, I just want to kind of shout that out to somebody who's saying that. So then on the 14th of May, Mercury stations to go direct. So that is, the degree itself is moving backwards as the wheels are still turning in astrology. And on May the 14th, Mercury gets back to 5 degrees of Taurus, which is the same point as that shadow point that was met on the 7th of April. Now, this is important to note because we're going to see this again. And this comes into our eclipse schedules as well. So we're going to see these points again. And it's going to be like, there's a lesson here and there's a message here. And I want to angle this camera because over here, it looks like I'm a little French bulldog right now. I'm still a comedian at heart. What can I say? So 5 degrees Taurus the 14th, and then on the 31st, that is when we leave that shadow point. We leave the shadow point of Mercury retrograde again at that critical degrees, 15 degrees Taurus, the 31st of May. So going back, one thing I want to say, so I want to read this, and I have a lot of notes today. This is the last thing I'll kind of read on a page, but maybe it's not, but I don't like to look down while I'm on a camera. But the thing is, I've been writing this sort of makeshift book this week about the divine feminine. And I do wonder, because we're, seasonally, things are very important for us seasonally. It's interesting that the divine masculine's out on the table. And let me actually pull for the divine feminine. So the way I'm going to do it is the first female, feminine court card I pick is the divine feminine message. So I have the sun. I'm going to get to a court card though. The sun, 9 of Wands. So this is the divine feminine message because it looks like the divine masculine's out. 3 of Cups. So these court cards, this might be a full reading. Wheel of Fortune. Where is this? 4 of Cups. If a feminine court card doesn't come out. The Hierophant, which is a major arcana related to Taurus. 8 of Wands. How many court cards? Okay, there she is. Queen of Cups. Okay, and then the bottom card is the Judgment card. So I do think this is nodal related to the North and South node. Okay, the message for the divine feminine is the sun. So I do think that's that shift from that Aries eclipse into Taurus season. 9 of Wands, you've been hit over the freaking head. You've been hit over the freaking head. This is divine feminine. 3 of Cups, but you've got some really, really awesome people in your life. Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune also is related to fixed signs. All of the fixed signs are in here. So we have Scorpio, which is risen and is the phoenix. So if we think of like the highest form of the version of each fixed sign, the Scorpio has risen from the ashes, is the phoenix, and has the sacred book of knowledge. Aquarius, Archangel Gabriel, which is neither gender formless, which is, we're in the age of Aquarius now. So the Wheel of Fortune is changing in this aspect. Taurus and Leo. So Taurus and Leo also being fixed signs. I think that it's very interesting that these signs are square to each other, but in this particular Wheel of Fortune card, in all respects, they're twins. So it's interesting because Taurus and Leo, Taurus season as we enter, Leo being, the king, Taurus being ruled by Venus, Leo being ruled by the Sun king. It's interesting in the Wheel of Fortune that they are kind of twin flamey in this particular card, and also in the Rider-Waite. And then we have symbols in here, the snake. And for those who are working with Pluto or Scorpio energy, it's the snake, the scorpion, and the eagle or the phoenix that represent the sacred trinity that is found in the sign of Scorpio, which is extremely important because these eclipses are all about this. And Taurus season, in fact, is all about where do you reconcile, where do you rebirth. So there's a lot of rebirth going on with these eclipses, with Mercury retrograde, and with Taurus season. And we're not done. The thing is, I'm reading for this, but we're not done. We face these eclipses again. We just face we face the mirror of them. We are just in a mirror to one another. We are just in this sacred mirror, this hall of mirrors that these eclipses create for us to really look within, which is why it's so important. That's why I'm looking at divine masculine, divine feminine energy, because we're looking within. We're looking within ourselves. We're looking within these realities that exist. This is a huge card, I think, for this particular eclipse path. Four of Cups, not really seeing what's in front of you. It's also the card of depression. And if you can see, like, this little unicorn is not looking up here for the divine guidance. It's only looking to the material world. And that's very, very important because Taurus sign is really, really about the material world and embracing the material world. But a lot of this Taurus season is kind of like, if you're a Taurus listening to this and you're like, oh my God, like I just can't get a grip on reality right now, you're kind of supposed to feel that as a Taurus, because I would say fixed signs are getting it the most. Fixed signs and cardinal signs right now are getting it the most. Mutable signs are just feeling it from everybody. I mean, you're empaths already, and you just kind of are probably picking it up, especially if you're a Virgo or a Pisces. No shade to Gemini and Sag, but Gemini and Sagittarius, you're more being asked to look within a lot more and to kind of reject the values of others and to look at your self-value system. And for Gemini and Sagittarius, this might feel really antisocial for a lot of Geminis and Sagittarius, but really it's for the better. And that's what I see actually with this card, is it's like, if anybody's out there facing this reality of like, what you had done in the past no longer works, it's supposed to feel that way. But the solution is Taurus season is really going to be this is Taurus's major arcana card, the Hierophant. And in many decks, it's called the Pope, and I don't work with those decks, but in this particular card, the Hierophant is this spiritual leader. Now, spiritual leadership is going to look very, very different in the next decade ahead, especially with Pluto moving through Aquarius, because it's going to be more community-based. But in this particular case, this is asking you to take this key, which This key right here is for you. This is for you to cross through. And here is supposed to be, I think, a sapphire, but I see it as the ocean. That's how I'm seeing it. And I've never seen the ocean in the Hierophant before, ever, 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 ever. 8 of Wands, receiving news swiftly. There is news on the way. There is information on the way. There is something on the way related to your personal life, this is again the divine feminine side, Queen of Cups. You knew this the whole time. You knew this the whole time. You had the hunch. You felt it. You knew. That's the things I want to say to the divine feminine side is you knew. You knew. Your intuition knew. And again, I'm speaking to everybody. Everybody has divine feminine, divine masculine side to them. If you are, say, identifying as more divine feminine, you're reading this, you're going into this reading, this is for you. And you knew. Okay? You knew. Divine masculine side is finding those values again. And remembering that you came from a place of pureness and knowing that you have to make these decisions from a very clear space. But the bottom of the deck was this court card of the King of Cups. And I do feel this as this is a 2-year process starting March the 7th. Very more clear cut. Divine feminine is just like, if you think of water, it's just like the splash of water. But then divine masculine is like very strategic, 4 cards that came out. Divine feminine is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, and then a 9th card with the bottom card being this Judgment card, which is ruled. This is Scorpio's major arcana, and interesting enough, that is North Node and South Node stuff. As the South Node's in Scorpio, the North Node's in Taurus. This is an eclipse path here. It's about timing. And we've got more timing on the way. So let's talk about this Aries eclipse message. I just like to shuffle cards because it moves the energy for me. It helps me to feel comfortable and guided and that I'm saying the right thing because I never want to speak from the wrong space. But I want to shout out Rebecca Rush on this video because she's a good friend of mine. And her and I were talking the other day and she said, you don't really need the cards. You just need to say things. I feel like you feel these things and you need to say them. So I want to thank her for encouraging me to actually speak without the cards. But in order for me to kind of share this message, I have to shuffle some cards because I just need to feel like I'm doing and saying the right thing. Bottom of the deck, 5 of Swords, leaving the past behind. It can be a scary past. This is just for this Aries energy. Knight of Wands. This is jumping into the unknown and kind of being foolhardy or being like, I'm gonna do this anyway. Like, screw you guys. I'm gonna do my thing. And I would say that is very much the top of Aries season with that. We had a new moon in Aries. Here she is again, Queen of Cups. She was reversed in this particular case because it's like, how do I trust my intuition when I've been through so much bullshit? Like that kind of feeling. But the moon is out. The moon is out. And I pulled this on my live stream for this particular eclipse. The moon reveals the dark mysteries of life. The moon reveals the secrets. The moon reveals a lot of things. Isn't it interesting? I'll say this. I'm going to get political. I'm drinking the tea while spilling it. Not spilling it. Isn't it interesting that there's like a 21 or 22-year-old like member of the armed services that got arrested for leaking documents on the Ukraine, and they had full aerial video of him just chilling in his backyard? I'm just wondering. I have questions. Okay. But I'm just a woman sipping tea in a kitchen. What can I say? Okay. ASMR. So I woke up this morning and I have to make my hair look pretty because this is going to be clipped out. You know, we live in a clippable society where everything is, clippable. So I'm just joking. I'm jokes here. I'm jokes. Really. Okay. Look presentable. This is my like NBC, MSNBC, like I've got my notes here. So this is the message of this eclipse. So let's get on our vibes right here. Let's get on our vibes. When I woke up this morning, got my beautiful pen out, wrote in my notebook where this is for everybody. If I use you, it's for you. If I use I, it's an I. It's an affirmation. So this is the affirmation of the new moon, total solar eclipse in Aries. Where have you been to war and back? I'll say that again. You, the person watching this. I'll Uncle Sam it. Where have you been to war and back? Where have you served your time? Because remember, this is at 2950 degrees, the anaretic degree of the first cardinal sign of the zodiac, according to Western astrology. Okay. Where can you say the time that you served for yourself? Can I repeat that? Because this is me trying to read, but also this is also where can you say the time that you served for yourself that may not look like the way others had served in the past? But for you and your personal life, you've been to war and back. This can be in your career. This can be in your love life. This can be through your family. These are all different ways that you serve your time. And this particular Aries total solar eclipse is saying, A, you, the listener, have been to war and back. And this is you getting that recognition for the war and the time that you served. You are being promoted, if we're looking at this from a military standpoint. You're being promoted by Saturn. You're being promoted because you followed your intuition, you followed your sacred heart, you followed every path that led you to what was the most important thing in your life. What you valued was the most important thing in your life. So for people who watch this down the road and you look at the timing of everything, look at your Aries houses around, the whole month of Aries of 2023 or the whole season of Aries of 2023. Do you have any planets in Aries? Do you have any points in Aries? If you're into midpoint astrology, do you have any midpoints in Aries or midpoints in a cardinal sign? Because a lot of times when we're looking at midpoints in astrology, it's kind of like we're looking at rubber bands being kind of like, like we're pulling rubber bands and they're all kind of moving at the same time. So that's how I view midpoints in astrology. You can also see if there's any planets transiting your first house. You can also see if there's any planets that you have in your first house, because this is also going to be affected by this eclipse. The other thing that you would want to look at is where is Mars in your natal chart, because your Mars is also being activated by this eclipse. Mars in transit is in the sign of Cancer. So we're also looking to the moon for energy. It's just that in this particular case, the moon is in Aries and Mars is in the sign of the moon. So with the divine feminine, divine masculine, the moon is holding the power. The lunar energy is holding all of the power. That's the most important piece of this aspect. I don't know, should I share? I'm going to share a personal story because this is going to be on I'm just going to share personal stories. This is how astrology plays out. And I'm going to say this particular piece of this video and this podcast is a story. I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. I'm a comedian. So personally, Pluto, the planet of extreme, like gutting you out and transforming you, and just you're going through the sacred underworld, it has been in my first house since 2008 and still is going to be there even as Pluto is moving through Aquarius and will be retrograding back into Capricorn for a specific period of time as well. I still have more lessons about my Mars. So when I look at my overall natal chart, I'm answering to my Mars, but I'm an Aries sun. And simultaneously, my sun is in my third house. My Venus in Aries is on my nadir in my fourth house. So ultimately, with the Pluto transit moving through my first house, and my Mars, as I should point out as well, is in my first house on my ascendant, directly conjunct my ascendant. So my Mars calls up to my midheaven, my career path, my career house, my career point, and says, hey, I need help expressing myself. My Venus and my Mars. So it's like my chart, first house, Venus goes, hey, I need some help up here in the midheaven. Can you help me? My midheaven is in Libra. At the end of Libra, opens up the door to my Pluto. Now, this is an example of the mosaic of astrology. This is the example of a transit opening up your chart and then asking you to dig further deeper. In my case, it's my midheaven, my career point, my career path opens up the door and goes, hey, just to let you know, you might have a point up here in Libra where you're supposed to be social and pretty and Venusian, but the reality is you're a Pluto person, you're a Scorpionic person. So your job is to literally be in the public and transform in front of people's eyes and be vulnerable and be weird and be different. And the thing about this eclipse is it's asking us, where do we go to war? Where do we go to battle? And how do we continue to say, you know what, I went to battle here, but my values have changed. Taurus season. Aries eclipse. Yes, I recognize that was hell. I recognize people, came and went. I recognize that I fought through a lot of things, Aries season. But now I'm putting down this burden. I'm putting down this anger. I'm putting down this rage and recognizing that that was a transit in my life. And this is for everybody. I just had to kind of say that that's like, if I'm looking at the mosaic of a chart, not one thing holds power. Everything works together. Outer planet transits, inner planet conversations in our chart. I want to shout out Lady in the Lamps in the chat. What's up? So I think I've talked a lot. I didn't think I'd talk this long, but I want to pull some cards to kind of conclude. And I just hear sacred journeys, sacred journeys, sacred journeys. So, bottom of the deck, the Empress. That's Taurus season in a nutshell. The Empress. She is divine. It is about embracing nature as well. Embracing your body, your physical body. There are two dates I also want to mention after this, but Two of Cups fusing together. I do think that this is a really big ask of the world. This is in reverse, but the world and the Wheel of Fortune in reverse, I never view them as reversals because it's what goes up must come down, what goes down must come up. It's a cycle, it's a turning. I think this is the eclipse in these cards facing one another, fusing the energies together. I hear sacred genetic healing, sacred DNA. And I see with this, the purple underneath, I'm keep working with purple because In the conspiracy community, purple has been fucked with and I don't like it. So purple is about your crown chakra and about trusting intuition, trusting your dreams, trusting that your dreams are sacred and your dream space is a sacred place. So if you feel like clutter around where you sleep, and believe me, I understand this, it's this moon is asking you to embrace your dream state. This is in reverse, but this is about receiving and giving help. So if you've been in a situation where you're over giving, this is also telling you to receive, 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 receive. And look at this. She's back again in this particular deck. What? The Queen of Cups. This might be an eclipse and a fire sign, but this is a strong vibe with Mars. Mars is in a very sacred position. Really look to your moon sign for guidance. If you don't know your moon sign, there are a ton of apps, a ton of websites where you can just put in your astrology data. I never go wrong with Cafe Astrology because it makes a little like Excel spreadsheet of your chart. Not a huge fan of certain apps, but I'm not going to knock an app. So there's a ton of apps out there where you put your data in and you can see your moon sign. And I have your Mars in Libra in the 7th house. So this particular eclipse, I would feel, is definitely triggering some relationship stuff for you for sure. Definitely. And also, even if we want to look at the 6 of Cups or 6 of Pentacles, that's definitely a relationship recalibration. And let me actually, maybe that's why I held off on these dates. So did I write it down? Did I write down the eclipse dates? I don't want to change screens. Okay. Then because I can't remember dates off the top of my head, but the screen's right here. And I just don't want to flip because I don't know if it's going to keep the camera going. Okay, let me try this really quick. And I can see the light still on. So if it takes off the stream. So we have our next lunar eclipse. It's prenumbral, May the 5th at 1:34 p.m. That's at 14 degrees of Scorpio. And then also call forward into the partial lunar eclipse in October 28th at 5 degrees of Taurus. Did we keep going? If you didn't see my face, those are the dates. But the reason what I'm calling through those is Mercury retrograde triggers these degrees. And so this particular eclipse series that we're going into, as Mercury retrograde is literally the day after this eclipse, think of it as weaving and intertwining the energy. And the fact that this particular Mercury retrograde spans between 5 degrees of Taurus and 15 degrees of Taurus, we're also going to get an opposition to this through the eclipses, and we're also going to face the mirror of this later on this year in October. So even we have an eclipse in the sign of Libra, which is going to be revisiting the Jupiter Cazimi of last week. So this is how astrology of 2023 is so synchronistic. Not that it's not ever synchronistic, but it's just almost like it's so literal to me that everything is so Wheel of Fortune this year for everybody. It really is this card. I feel like this is a card to really embrace. I'll thank you. So I want to say thank you for watching. It's my first YouTube live and I like it over here. Personally, I don't know how people are feeling about Instagram, but I am just, it makes me so sad to go on Instagram. And I picked the High Priestess to talk about this. I don't like Instagram anymore. I like TikTok, but Instagram has just not been an app for me. And I noticed once I started talking about the divine feminine more, that when I go up into my stories to check my analytics, that my stories are not being seen, or if they are being seen, it's like 3 people and the rest just bots. And then when I put a video up, it takes about 2 weeks to get past 100 or 200 views. Where before I had started getting into the thousands and then a little bit more than that. And then, I was getting like 15 to 10,000 and then it just stopped. So for me, Instagram has not been a good app for me to use. Other apps have just been a better space for me. And it's tough when you want to get your work out there because I don't know where to go. And I know a lot of people use Instagram, but for the past year, actually 2 years, Instagram for me has been a really rough space. And I'm just going to trust my intuition and say that it's not going to be my primary space to put things anymore. If you want to find me, I'm here on my podcast, Trust Your Glitter Audio, and now I'll be on YouTube Livestream. I think Sunday will be a nice day for it, but I'm still in my travel phase of my life, so I might be traveling still a little bit more, and I'm going to have to figure out. But today is a trial podcast on YouTube, so if you like what I'm doing, please like and subscribe. I have stand-up comedy clips on here. I have tarot clips on here, and I'm also on Substack where I am doing daily writing challenges. And this past week, I did a 7-chapter and 7-day writing challenge for the Divine Feminine, the Sacred Feminine, as a challenge. And today is my final chapter. And before I go into writing these chapters, I don't know what I'm going to write about. I just start writing and the topic comes through. So it's an intuitive writing challenge. So that's Christy Melich on Substack. And thank you so much for watching, and peace. Have a great week ahead. Enjoy the eclipses. Happy birthday, Taurus, and enjoy this Mercury retrograde in Taurus.